You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to this live Q&A session on the fourth dimension process. We got Dr. Joe here and Dr. Steve. My name is Mitch. I work behind the scenes with both of these gentlemen. So, gentlemen, you want to say hello real quick?
Greetings from the fourth dimension to the third dimension.
Perfect.
So, first of all, for anybody on the call who wants to ask a question, you can either do it through the event page that was in the email, or you can hit star 2 and it'll raise your hand, and then we can call on you that way. But we got one question to start, but I think should lead us someplace interesting. Someone asks, I would like to know if you could cover a section on allowing surrender. Surrendering is an area I still have a bit of trouble with, as I've always associated surrender to being bound, shackled, caged, giving up, or captured.
Joe, that sounds like a good question for you.
I like how you just take it and pass it to me.
There you go.
What a good basketball player you are. As soon as you get the ball, shoot it to another player.
That's right. Go make that slam dunk. Yeah.
I love it. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, I have written about surrender in a lot of different books, most famously in the book The Attractor Factor, because it's part of the fifth step, where the fifth step in the attractor factor is to let go while taking inspired action. And a lot of people have written me over the years, because that book came out over 10 years ago, and they would say, well, I have trouble letting go, and what do you mean by letting go, and how do I surrender when surrender sounds negative? And so I spent a lot of time working on the best answer. And the way you have to look at this is to reframe your understanding of the word surrender. I do not mean surrender in giving up. I do not mean surrender as being captured. I do not mean surrender as being something where you don't have power anymore. And in fact, it's the opposite. Surrender means you are joining forces with a power greater than your individual power. So you're surrendering to a force that's already in momentum, a force that is already overwhelmingly, energetically powerful, that you can get more results and better results and faster results by surrendering to that force. So you're not giving up, you are actually aligning yourself with an ocean that's already going in a direction you want to go. And then I further explain it by saying letting go means you're letting go of your need or your addiction or your attachment for things to be a certain way. I have found over the decades of doing this kind of work that when people get hung up on how things will play out, they need it to be a specific way. They can only imagine one particular result. They can't see any other possibilities. That's where they are actually limiting their ability to manifest what they want in a bigger way. So surrender to me is actually joining forces with something that is more powerful than you. You're not losing any power, you're gaining power. Instead of you standing on the playing field of life all by yourself, you surrender to the team that's already on the field and you move with it. It's actually on your side and is part of your energy field. So instead of thinking of surrender as something negative, think of surrender as something positive. There certainly is the idea of surrender in war or in some situations where you feel like, well, I got to give up. But we're not talking about giving up. We're talking about joining forces with something that's already more powerful than you, which increases your power and makes it even more advantageous for you to create the life that you want. So just reframe surrender. It's not bad. It is actually great. Think of it as letting go to a higher power, a higher force, to the fourth dimension even. So instead of being limited by your ego or third dimension rules and regulations, what you're doing is giving in to a fourth dimension that actually is a bigger, greater force than you all by yourself. So surrender is a good thing.
Surrender.
All right.
I surrender to that answer.
So we have another question. Someone is asking, they understand the ideas and concept behind the fourth dimension process, but they're struggling to really get started and see some results. So they're feeling stuck. Do you have any advice to get them pushing through?
I'm going to pass that to Dr. Steve.
All right, now we're playing ball again. All right. Well, I would say I think that is a good question for hypnosis, since I bring that to the table. Joe does as well, but I'm more so involved these days on a more of a daily basis with that. So the world of hypnosis can bring in the idea that you really need to stick to something that you're passionate about. And so whenever you're going for something, I understand the question to be about having what I call stick-to-itiveness. Is that what it sounds like to you, Mitch?
Well, it sounds like to me, wherever Mitch went.
Yeah.
Mitch went to the fourth dimension.
Sorry about that.
All right, no problem at all. Mitch is back. All right, yeah, so I would say that, when we talk about things like that, number one, you've got to make sure whatever you're doing is in line with your passion, your core beliefs, what you want for your life. But if you've decided all that and whatever you're working on still isn't working out, hypnosis is, in my opinion, a tool that will be very powerful. And that doesn't mean that you have to hypnotize yourself necessarily, but things such as affirmations. And Joe, there's here we go with the basketball again, but Joe, there's seriously, there's no one in the world I'd rather hear explain affirmations and the correct way to do them than you. So back to you, Dr. Joe.
Okay, the Harlem Globetrotters are playing on the field.
Absolutely.
Passing the ball back to each other. I love it. Well, when it comes to affirmations, let's put this in the context of the whole fourth dimension process, because the people on this call are familiar with the fourth dimension and the process, and we'll clarify some things if there's more questions as we go through this. But the fourth dimension is separate from the first, second, and third. The first dimension is in the world of affirmations. Think of the first dimension as written statements on a piece of paper. It's very flat. When I say this, I'm not dismissing affirmations at all. I'm saying they are powerful. I want you to use them, and I'm going to clarify them here in a minute. But I also want you to realize that you have the second dimension to work in, you have the third dimension to work in, and the fourth dimension, which is the Wizard of Oz playground of all possibilities, is where I want you to work in. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. So when writing affirmations, we want to write them in the first person, we want to write them in present tense, and we want to write them short, sweet, and energetic. And what that means is your affirmation doesn't need to be a paragraph. It, in fact, as an affirmation, should be one line that's only a handful of words. The shorter words, the better. The more easily understood words, the better. You don't want to confuse yourself. You don't want to confuse your subconscious/unconscious mind. You need to be clear and direct. It should be written with the I statement. So this is happening to you. I am experiencing such and such. I intend to have such and such. It should also be very clear. I often tell people that if you went to Amazon, or let's change that, if you go to a physical retail store and you walk in and you say you want something, you better be really specific about what you want. Because if you walk into an electronics store and you say, I want a TV, there are way too many TVs for the clerk to know what you're talking about. You need to tell them exactly what you want. And the affirmation needs to be the same way. Specify exactly what you are wanting to experience, but frame it in present tense so you are experiencing it now. It's also important to have emotion in there. So if you can use words like love or words like passion or words that engage your emotions and make you excited about the affirmation that you're stating here, it'll be all the more powerful. What you're doing with an affirmation is programming what's called your reticular activating system. It's a part of your brain, the RAS for short, reticular activating system. And the reticular activating system responds to imagery, emotion, and repetition. Imagery, emotion, and repetition. Those three combined are what you want to put into an affirmation. You want to make sure that it conjures up some sort of image, and imagery is really in the second dimension. But when you're writing in the first dimension, you want your words to conjure up an image. Your words also need to have energy to them, some emotion. You tend to attract into your life what you love, what you hate, and what you fear. You want your affirmation to be based on love. You want to be attracting things into your life that you want to actually feel great about. You don't want to fear it or doubt it or worry about it. So this has to be an energy of love. And then, of course, with affirmations, you want to repeat them, because that's the third leg of how the reticular activating system works. So you're repeating your affirmations as many times as a day or in a day that you actually think of them, with the ideal times, and I'm sure Dr. Steve will agree, being first thing in the morning when you awaken, last thing at night as you're going to sleep, because those are access points. Those are portals into your unconscious/subconscious mind. That's kind of a crash course in affirmations, but there's actually a lot there for review and practice.
Yeah, I like that, Joe. I think the part where you mentioned me agreeing that it would be in the morning and the evening that they'd be most receptive, from my point of view as a hypnotherapist, it would be because they would be naturally inclined to be more relaxed and more likely to be at least in the relaxed state of alpha. Is that where you were going with that?
Absolutely, yeah. You just put it in more precise scientific terms.
Hey,
I was just winging it.
Yeah, the law of attraction meets hypnotherapy. It's all we've covered every corner here. Absolutely. Mitch, do we have other questions?
Yeah, we do. We have one that's broad, but I think it's applicable to what a lot of people experience.
Okay, and
someone's saying that
I understand a hypnosis session is coming up also. I just wanted to interject that in there.
Yeah, we do have a surprise. We do have a surprise for everybody. We are
so much for the surprise.
Yeah, well, sorry, folks. I can't keep a secret. I got to work on that.
So the question is, I have a lot of different programs offering different things in different aspects of success and wealth. And I'm feeling overwhelmed. What do I do what do you recommend in terms of taking the next step or choosing which I should focus on, or how to decide what's the best step for me now? I'm paraphrasing that.
I will take the first stab at that and allow Steve to explain what I was trying to explain. So, here's my first attempt.
Wing it.
I'm a great believer in intentional reading and intentional learning. So, for example, right now I'm sitting in one of my offices and I have books everywhere. They're stacked up around me, they're stacked up on the floor, they're stacked up at my elbows, they're stacked up on the desk. And these are the books that I want to read. So it's pretty overwhelming to look at these stacks, and before this call I was actually moving some of them around. And as I was moving them, I was asking myself, do I want to read this right now? Do I want to read this one today? And what I was looking for is my inner guidance system to tell me which one is the priority. Because I'm obviously not going to read 100 books and just dabble in each one of them, because I'm not going to process it, I'm not going to retrieve it, I'm not going to remember it. It's got to be too much of a dabbling. And I want to be more intentional. So I asked myself, what am I working on now? What do I want to learn now? What is my passion now? And then I go through and go, oh yeah, I want to read this book on Mark Twain. Oh yeah, I want to read this book on peak performance for singers, since I'm doing a lot of music and all of that. And so my intention helps me eliminate, clarify, and choose more of the things that are appropriate for this moment. So I push aside the other piles. That doesn't mean I'll never get to them, but I'm also okay if I don't, because I'm going with the intention, writing out of my passion, being directed from an internal guidance system out of this moment. After I go through the 4 or 5 books that have come up as the priorities for today, tomorrow, or this week, I'll then do the same thing. I'll look at the pile again and go, okay, which are the ones that are calling for me to read now? Which do I really want to dig into? So I call it intentional reading, intentional learning, intentional self-discovery, because you go within and you ask yourself, what is it that you want to do next, and allow your answer to be your intention, and your intention becomes your filtering system. Now, Steve, what did I just say?
you said everything perfectly. I think
I get an A.
You do. You get an A plus. I absolutely agree with that, because it allows you to always be intentional and in the moment, and really be in tune with what you want to do in that moment. And so, for me, for example, I have about 20 different books that I'm reading right now. Some are on audiobook, some are on Kindle, some are books. I prefer audiobook because it's easier and I can do other things while listening, but I will actually still pick up a book every now and then. And so there are 20 different ones. And what I do is throughout the day, I listen to different books. What is this in this time of the day? What's it conducive to? Oh, probably learning about something exciting. What's this time of day conducive to? And so when you look at programs that you have, you probably want to, rather than doing a little bit each day, although that could work, you may want to extend it a little bit and say, what am I feeling in this time of my life? And when we say time of life, how long does it take to go through a program? Probably just a few weeks. So for these few weeks, what do I really want to focus on? And so I think when you get a program that you're going through, it helps if you have that I found for myself, as opposed to my day-to-day book reading, it helps if I'm focused on something overall also, and that program is what would be an overall focus of that time period, that few weeks.
I love it. It's great. It's great, John.
Should I do a mic drop there?
Yeah.
I heard silence. I didn't know. The crowd went silent. All right.
All right. So I think at this point, why don't we jump into this live hypnosis session?
Sounds good to me.
I want to explain something here, because this is another question I've heard, and that is the idea of how is the fourth dimension different from hypnosis or the hypnotic state. And so I've gotten that question from time to time. And the way I've explained it is that hypnosis is a way to access the fourth dimension. So in other words, think of hypnosis as a door. And as you go through the door, going down the stairway, getting into a hypnotic state, you get to this place where you can end up in the fourth dimension. And in the fourth dimension, with hypnosis having gotten you there, you can manufacture what you want to create in the third dimension. So let me spell this out for another second, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Steve to explain hypnosis and what's going to happen here. Because in my mind, I would love for Dr. Steve to guide us through the hypnosis experience and bring us into a trance state. And I'll let him explain what all that means. But he's the celebrity hypnotist. He has far more experience doing it than me, so we'll let him guide you there. Then once you are in that state of total relaxation and openness, I will take over for just a couple minutes and lead you deeper into the fourth dimension, and then I'll take you to a place where you can create something in the fourth dimension that you would like to see materialized in the third dimension being this everyday reality that we all agree on. That's where you work and play and talk and sing and so forth. So that's my little forward. Now, Dr. Steve, do you have an intro or added explanation? I
will prepare the cabin and crew for takeoff with these suggestions. If you are driving a vehicle or doing anything that requires your full attention, you either need to stop listening to this and listen to it some other time, or you need to stop what you're doing. So either way, whichever works out best, because you need to be sitting or lying down in a place that's comfortable and quiet. And if you lean one side or the other, you won't fall out of a chair. So if you're on a chair, you want to be in a chair with arms. Oftentimes people just like to lie down on the floor or on a couch or on their bed. And this hypnosis session is going to be about 15 minutes long. So we're going to leave a little time at the end for more questions and anything. And we will be be putting you into hypnosis. As Joe said, I'll be handling the first part and the second part. That'll be the induction and the deepening. The induction is where I induce the hypnotic state, and the deepening is where I intensify that. Then Joe, I'll hand it back to Joe. I'll mention him by name, and he will come back in and do the script. That's where all the magic happens. That's where you're going to be programmed by Dr. Joe Vitale for having access to the power of the fourth dimension. So that's going to be a real treat. And during that time, since I'm not doing the script, I'm going to sit back with my eyes closed and enjoy that with you. And then Joe will hand it back to me by name, and I will come back in and wrap up the hypnosis session. Usually I would do an amnesia at the end to attempt to get you to not remember it consciously so that you don't overanalyze it at the end. But this is a learning module also, and we want you to remember everything. So I'm not going to do that part this time, but I am going to bring you out of hypnosis at the end.
You are listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.
All right, and on that note, gentlemen, are we ready?
I am.
All right, let's do this. So, my understanding is if you're still listening to my voice, you're just sitting or lying down. You have nothing to do for the next 15 minutes. And I'd like you to just close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose, inhaling deeply. Hold it. Open your mouth slightly, and when you're ready, exhale very slowly. Good. And then when you're ready, another deep breath in through your nose, breathing in slowly. Then hold it, and when you're ready, exhale slowly. And then continue breathing easily, effortlessly, and comfortably, realizing that in just a few moments you are going to be completely relaxed. And in order to help you relax, I would like you to imagine yourself on your own island. This is a beautiful island. You are alone and safe and relaxed. And as you walk down to the edge of the water, you just allow yourself to unwind even more. Noticing the beautiful blue sky overhead with occasional white wispy clouds. And you hear birds off in the distance. As you walk along the sand, you feel it on the bottom of your feet. And between the temperature of the sun shining down on you as it warms your skin, and the gentle breeze that is blowing on you, between those two, the temperature is just right. And you continue walking, unwinding, and relaxing. So very, very at ease. And as you reach the edge of the water, you turn to walk along the shore. And as you do, you feel yourself relaxing from head to toe. It seems that the more I talk, the more you relax. And as you continue walking, you relax more and more, feeling the warmth of the sun move down to your shoulders now. Feels as if you're getting a gentle massage as you continue walking along the beach. The relaxation moves down to your arms now, all the way down to the tips of each of your fingers as you continue walking and listening to the waves rolling in and out, unwinding and relaxing. The relaxation moves down your chest to your torso and down your legs, and down to the tip of each and every toe, as you now find a safe, dry, comfortable place where you can sit looking out over the water, because here on your island, it is the end of the day and the sun is about to set on the horizon, and you are going to watch that sunset. And so as you sit down and face the water, the sun begins to slowly set. And as I count backwards from 10 to 1, the sun slowly sets on the horizon, because the lower I count, the lower the sun goes. And the lower the sun goes, the more you relax deeper and deeper and more deeply relaxed. Starting with the number 10, and the sun begins to set on the horizon. 9. The sun sinks a little lower now as you relax more and more deeply. 8. 7. Relaxing more and more. 6. So very, very relaxed as you watch the sun setting on the horizon. 5 becomes 4, then 3, then 2, and at the count of the next number, the sun will have completely set on the horizon, and Dr. Joe Vitale will guide your subconscious mind. 1. The sun has completely set, and you are completely at ease.
Now, as you relax even deeply and more deeply, knowing that you can get even more relaxed either right now or in a moment, notice that you have thoughts, but that you are not your thoughts. You are somehow a witness to your own thoughts. And notice you have emotions, but you are not your emotions. You are somehow a witness to your emotions. And notice you have a body, but that you are not your body. You can observe your body. Since you are not your thoughts, and you are not your emotions, and you are not your body, yet you can witness all of this. You are the energy field behind it all. This energy field can do anything. This energy field can be anything. This energy field can have anything. This energy field is you. You are limitless. You are all-powerful. You are the witness behind all of life. You are in the fourth dimension. Knowing you can create anything you want in this playground of consciousness. Choose something that you would love to have, do, or be. Allow whatever comes to mind to be okay. Excellent. In this world of all possibilities, there are no limits. There are no limitations. You can have whatever you can imagine. Imagine having the very thing you just said you wanted. Imagine living it, being it, owning it, living it. You have the power of the sun. You have the power of all the universe. You have the power of the galaxies. The energy that makes all life is the energy behind your thoughts, your emotions, and your body. Feel the power of that energy field in the fourth dimension. You smile as this feels so good to experience. You are safe and secure, powerful and happy. Take a moment to experience the reality of what you would like to have, do, or be. Sense it in this fourth dimension. See it, feel it, embody it. Do that for a few seconds, and then I'll allow Dr. Steve to bring you back up to the third dimension.
As you continue relaxing, using your mind in this powerful way, you realize just how amazing you are, just how amazing you have always been. You are in charge of your life, and you can choose to do anything that you want to do. And in just a few moments, I'm going to return you to full awakening consciousness, back to the third dimension. At that time, you will be wide awake and full of natural energy, ready to embrace the rest of your day. And before you go to bed tonight, you will take one action. You will do something that you've been putting off, something that's good for you and for all those around you, something that brings a positive result to the world, something that benefits not just you, but those around you as well, something that moves you closer to achieving your dreams. And you will do this because you believe in yourself now. In just a moment, I'm going to return you to full awakening consciousness at the count of 3, so that by the time I reach that final number, you will be wide awake and completely out of hypnosis. All right now, coming up very slowly. 1, starting to move, beginning to stir. 2, becoming very aware of your surroundings, very aware of where you are. And at the count of the next number, you will be wide awake and completely out of hypnosis. All right now, 3, eyes open, wide awake, and completely out of hypnosis. And take at least half an hour before you do anything that requires your attention. Just relax, ease back into things. So if this were an actual seminar, what would be happening right now is people would be asking questions and sharing their experiences. So, Joe, I'd like to share my experience, since as I said, I'd be closing my eyes during the part that you did.
Oh, good. Okay. Tell me.
Yeah, so you were talking about, what did you say? You know, it's interesting, you think you're going to remember the exact words, but with hypnosis, it kind of becomes a challenge. But you were talking about feeling the power. You said, feel the power. And when I did that, when I closed my eyes, it seemed like something solid and gold, except it had some contours to it. And I was thinking, this is like somehow something solid that Dr. Joe Vitale is able to tap into. I'm not saying it's gold per se, but it's just the way it's represented as something very solid and valuable. So something very solid and valuable that you're tapping into. And in that moment, I wouldn't say I quite could, but I could almost feel what it's like to be Dr. Joe Vitale, I think, in that moment. I got a little glimpse of it, and I liked it a lot.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. Yeah. Anything dealing with gold, I like.
Okay. Maybe I'm onto something.
I really love that, and I want to say what my experience was as the person directing folks is I was pointing to what I am calling the actual fourth dimension, because a lot of people think, well, is it an imaginary thing, or is it just something that we are able to access? We're in a trance and we're playing with our subconscious mind. And I want to be clear that I sincerely am pointing to the fourth dimension when I ask people to look beyond their thoughts. I mean, it's part of a meditation tradition to have people realize they're not their thoughts. But I'm taking it even deeper and saying, notice that you can witness your thoughts. What's that part of you that's witnessing the thoughts? Then I take them into their body and saying, look, you have a body, but sometimes it has aches and pains, and you're noticing it. So you're not the ache or the pain or the body. Somehow you are witnessing it. I do the same thing with the emotions. And I brought all of those up because where I was pointing is to that background witness, that essence that is watching thoughts, that is watching the body, that is watching the emotions. That essence is the fourth dimension. It's the background that we create from. But almost nobody knows that because we're all tied up in the third dimension. We're all tied up in the world of the illusion, depending on how you look at it. But it's the world of struggle and strife and physicality and material things. It's the background that I'm pointing to. And I really think with your beautiful induction and then taking them with this narration that I guided people to, this is one of the most powerful, if not the most powerful hypnosis sessions I've ever been a part of. This is incredible. This is deeper than anything done before. Well, that's my perspective. I'm, in a sense, in awe of it, and in a sense, in total gratitude that we got to do this for everybody on this call.
Oh, me too. I just remembered another part of my experience. You said something along the lines of, when you realize this, it makes you smile or something like that. I was already smiling, and I thought, oh my goodness, he knows what I'm doing. But that also let me know that I was on the right track, because this is the part where I'm supposed to have that reaction, and I am having it. So, and Joe knows I should be having this. Yeah, it was just the whole thing was just spot on, as they say across the pond.
Yeah. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I loved it. I loved working with you, and of course we've done this a few times, including live fairly recently at the Advanced Ho'oponopono certification event.
Yes.
And you and I, live on stage, did this little tag team hypnosis. But this one was particularly unique because of that whole fourth dimension, just using hypnosis as a third dimension tool to get us into the door and through the door to what I call the fourth dimension. And there, the statements I was saying were to remind people that they are unlimited. When we're in the third dimension and we come from our mental processing and our belief systems and the paradigm we grew up with and formed over our lifetimes, it's full of limitations. It's full of things we can't do. And what I was pointing to is the part of us, that essence part of us, the fourth dimension part of us, that has no limits. You can have, do, or be anything. There isn't any sort of disclaimer to it. It's really open-ended, and it is this field of unlimited possibilities. I get even more excited thinking about it. But that's what you and I just did. We took everybody on this call to that world and then asked them to pick something that they wanted to create in the third dimension, knowing they could visualize it into fourth, mold it, so to speak, into reality, feel it real there, and now in this third dimension it will come about. But the other thing you did that I think is so brilliant is that you asked them to take an action step. Mm-hmm. And I love that, because it's too easy for people to just say, well, I'll let the universe bring it to me, or I'll just roll over and go to sleep, and when I wake up, there it'll be.
Mm-hmm.
And we both know life is a co-creation. It's a co-creation. We need to do our part as the universe, or whatever you want to call this force field of life out there, does its part. So taking an action step is brilliant. I'm glad that you added that.
Well, my pleasure. I have realized, as you have also in life, that if you don't do anything, nothing gets done. And I think that a lot of times that's where people really get confused, especially with metaphysical concepts. They really get caught up in that. They think a magic wand is going to be waved. It's like Lisa Nichols says, there is no genie. That's a concept, but you've got to get out there and do things. And that's one thing that I'm really big on. I'm glad you pointed that out, Joe, because I know you're big on that too.
I wouldn't have as much produced or created in my life if I wasn't an action-oriented guy.
Yep.
You know, if you and I are both talking, we should see if Mitch is still awake.
Mitch, you can come out of hypnosis now.
He may not have gotten out of the trance.
On the count of three.
Gentlemen, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Our pleasure.
For everybody on the call, if you have a question, you can either hit star 2 on your phone, or if you're on the web call, you can click that raise hand button. We do have one person who has their hand raised, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute Sherry from Round Rock, Texas. Sherry, are you there? Sherry? I think Sherry is still in a trance herself.
Okay. Well, she managed to raise her hand, so that's a good sign.
All right. So, unfortunately, we're going to have to say goodbye to Sherry. Before we sign off, gentlemen, do you have any other little nuggets of gold that you want to share with everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my nugget would be a reminder. And this is something that I do, is throughout the day, I find as many opportunities to pause and not just take a breath, because it's good to pause any way you look at it. You just kind of relax and de-stress yourself and take a breath and relax. We all know that's going to be beneficial. But I take a pause and I stop long enough to look through the third dimension to the fourth. And what I mean by that is I stop long enough to let my mind just keep buzzing, because that's the nature of the mind. It just keeps just conjuring up thoughts. But instead of paying attention to the thoughts, I stop long enough to remember there's a screen that the thoughts are showing up on. That's what I'm calling the witness. And it's the same thing if I've got emotions going on. Maybe I'm impatient or aggravated, or I don't know, maybe I'm totally at peace. But I look at the emotion too, but I go, wait a minute, the emotion is kind of like a actor feeling their role. What is the experience beyond that or under that? And I do the same thing with my body, just going, okay, what's my body feeling? Is it achy? Do I need to move? Do I need to stretch? Do I need water? But I also realize I'm not my body. So I stop long enough throughout the day to tap into and touch what I'm calling the fourth dimension, the energy field, the witness behind, underneath the background of the thoughts, the emotions, and the body. The more I do that, the more I tap into the superhuman part of me. And I'm not saying that in any way to say I'm special. I'm saying each one of us can do that. The superhuman part of you is underneath those thoughts of limitations, or the body that's experiencing whatever it is in third dimensional world, or whatever emotions are coming up. There is this access point that's available if we pause long enough to touch it. And I've made it my, living meditation to find times throughout the day to just pause, reflect, and touch and connect, and even try to become the fourth dimension. That's where everything is being created and arising from. That's my little reminder and nugget.
I like it. And just springboarding off of that, I like to leave people with the idea that I got from the musical group America. They had that song about the Wizard of Oz, and they said Oz never did give nothing to the Tin Man that he didn't already have. And what I take away from that is that hypnosis and teachings and so forth, they're not really giving us anything we don't already have. Everything that Dr. Joe and I are talking about, you already have inside yourself. But sometimes you need a gentle reminder of how great, amazing, beautiful, and powerful you really are. So that's what we've been honored to share with you today, how amazing you are.
And these people are amazing. I'm always so impressed with people call in from all parts of the world at all times of day and night to participate on a call like this. So I'm grateful, I'm honored, and of course I always love working with you, Dr. Steve, so I'm grateful for that, and thank Mitch for orchestrating this and being referee, or whatever you want to call it, MC, I guess is the word.
Did a very good job, Mitch. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Joe. It was wonderful working with you.
Yeah, my pleasure. You guys are awesome. For everybody on the call, if you want to hear the replay of the call, it's going to be on the same, we'll send out an email that has the link to the page again, but it's on the same page that you're on to access the call in the first place. Dr. Joe, Dr. Steve, thank you so much for what you do. I think everybody on this call has appreciated what you've given them, and I want to thank everybody for joining us. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Good night, everybody.
You're listening to an interview with clinical hypnotherapist Dr. Steve G. Jones. For a free hypnosis download, please visit stevegjones.com.